G'day and welcome to part 18 of the Sigma makeover. And we've got the engine ready to go back in. I'm looking at it now, it's on the floor and it looks really, really good. And I've been converted. And I'm not really talking about religion, I'm not talking about politics, which it'd be very easy being converted with politics in this country because Prime Ministers change about every 2 or 3 weeks. But I'm talking about this. Aha! Now, I'm a Lipton black tea drinker. And I have my friends over a few times a year. They sort of come and they'll come together. And James, John, Craig, Peter, Shane. He couldn't come this time though, which was a pity. And there's a new fella, and I can't remember his name. And he watches this stuff, and he bought this for me. Now, when someone brings you something like this, you're very polite. You say, let's all have a cup of tea. And you have this stuff. And I drank it and I thought, my God, this is pretty good. And then I went back to Lipton for another cup and I just thought, Lipton actually sucks compared to this. So I've actually converted to this. This is Taylor's Yorkshire Gold. I looked online, I can get it at Woolworths, which is really, really good. So thanks, mate, for this. I'm absolutely stoked. It's really, really good. So that's that. Now, the engine's ready to go back in. I mentioned that before. I want to go full steam ahead with this. I've got to do some XC stuff as well. I've got packs of stuff to do on the car, on the Ford. Because I've got some parts here, so I can sort of go ahead with that. And I will do that video on the turbo. I wasn't going to do it. I was pretty annoyed with the turbo when I pulled it out of the bag, but I thought, you know what, good deal. I emailed the seller actually, and there's all this toing and froing. He goes, talk to a mechanic about it and see what they say. It's like, come on, mate. Even it just goes on and on, and I can't be bothered. But anyway, look, I'm not going to talk anymore. Here's the Sigma engine video, and I hope you enjoy. Right, powder coating. You can see the spare wheel for the XC here is in absolutely beautiful shape. You can't clean it and paint it as good as this, or as well as this I should say. It is absolutely beautiful. I haven't got the original alloy type wheel for it. This is the wheel I had, a pressed steel wheel, and that's going to be fine. I've got a tyre for it, we can stick that straight in the boot of the XC. I'll mount that tyre in the next couple of days. Don't you roll away. I've got to put it away in a moment. Ugh. Rest of the stuff, sway bar for the Sigma. I could have relic canned that, but I couldn't be bothered. As well as these engine mount pieces here. They could have been rattle canned, but by the time you pay for 1 or 2 larger bits, a couple of extra ones aren't going to cost anything more, and it's just easier. This I did want. You can see the pitting from the rust that was on there. This is the battery tray that we welded those bits onto. We can chuck that in the car now, all good. As well as this radiator support stay, which has turned out absolutely beautifully, as has this. And this was all sort of scaly with red paint and all sorts of stuff on it. And that's all good too. Spare wheel cover for the XC. Again, 1 or 2 pits in it, but we don't care about that. As well as the bottom cover, or shroud. I don't know what you call that. What's that thing called? Like a sump guard for the Sigma. The ones I particularly wanted to get powder coated were these cast rod housings. And they're beautiful. There was surface rust and all sorts of stuff on those. So I've got those, they can go straight back in. Fan shroud for the air-conditioned cars. But, given that we're going to modify ours eventually, that's not a bad thing to have. The only screw-up wasn't from the powder coat, it was from me. And that's that I hadn't extracted this broken stud from the bumper mount, for the rear bumper mount on the XC. So I've got those things done. I've just got to... I'll put that on a drill press, drill that out, retap it. I think it's a 3/8 course or something. Yep, that's 3/8 course. And then we're good to go. So that's the powder coating. Very reasonable to get done. And very labour intensive to try and clean this stuff up to the point where it would look like this. Very pleased indeed with how this stuff has come out. So another job out of the way. We can start fitting some of this stuff up now. Might be time to stick a few bits and pieces on this engine. Some of it's not all that clean in the hardware. I guess the alternator is probably the first thing, and I'm looking around now to see where the bags of parts are that I just pulled out, and I can't remember. It's so there they are. It's so typical of me to lose things as I'm about to put them on. Right, so the alternator's had a rudimentary clean, but it's certainly not there yet. It's right on the cusp of not being that great. Well, it's actually not that great. The reason is. Yeah, Mark. The reason is it's pulling about 13.8 volts and we want it to pull a little bit more than that. Where is the bracket? This had a spacer on the back, which I find reasonably unusual. So we'll stick that onto that thread that had all the muck on it, which is very unprofessional, but it doesn't matter for now. And it's just an exercise again in trying to figure out what we had. Got this the wrong way around. Pretty easy to do, particularly when you haven't done this stuff for a little while. Right, we'll flick him around that way and see if that makes a difference, which I'm tipping it will. So I want to say hello to Taz. He's one of the parents. I had parent-teacher interviews last night and had 58 interviews. Right, that is nuts. Oh, that's better. That's much smoother. And he came up and started talking about this and how he appreciated the video. So thank you very much, Taz. Next time, I'd really like to speak to you at more length. Right, so that's going to do. That can just sit there and sit idle for a moment while we figure out how the fan goes. Because I've forgotten that too. Oh my goodness. Alright, so you can see it's not that well cleaned up, but we're going to cover it up with a nice shiny fan. I just can't remember where all the stuff goes. So I've got to kind of figure it out as we go. There are a couple of spaces. Other spaces the same size. So you can't put the fan straight on because it's going to hit, right? That's not that bad really, but there's two spaces and thankfully they're the same size. So we'll bang one on there. And we'll stick that on there and that gives it some more room. Then I think there's another space that goes there. Then I think the fan goes on, which, or sorry, the pulley goes on, which is there. Then I'm tipping that guy, and then the nut. Does that look right to you? If not, shout it out in the comments, eh? And you can see our alternator is pretty mangy, but this little guy here, all that dressing will make it look much more spiffy than it really is. So we'll get a zap gun, we'll nail that one down, and I think we'll have a look at this one too. Oh, before we do that, let's have a look at the belt shaft chains. If I can find my 10mm spanner, which I've not the foggiest where it is. Is that right? That fan's sitting out an awfully long way, isn't it? No, I don't think that's right. That fan's sitting too far out. No. And that just looks and feels completely wrong. So, what about if we take the spacer out, put that there, that looks like it goes there. Put that one there, put that one there. I think the spacer goes there because we've got these big things there. I don't know what they are. And then I might have to have a look at the other video, but that actually does look as though it's sitting a little bit better. Yep, I reckon it's that way. This thing here, let's have a look at that. See what it divulges. This gasket looks like it's pretty well had it, so we can always just make up a new one quickly. Is this all dirty behind there? Yes, it looks like it might be. So we'll get a rag off the floor and catch some bolts. This engine really was filthy inside. Oh, it's got Celastic on it. Great. Love that stuff. I hate Celastic. I do like it on exhaust, but I just don't like it anywhere else. I really don't. Okay, so there's a little adjuster, and I don't think we need to make a gasket because it came off in one piece. And it looks reasonably clean now. So the idea is we loosen that, we push this little thing down with our finger. So we loosen it and, oh yeah, it went down a fair way. We're not going to push that down too hard because if we push it down too far they whine like crazy. So that should be enough there. That's what I think. So I'll nip it up. And that might silent things up a bit in our silent shaft engine, which is nothing silent about these because they whine like crazy. The gasket's in good shape. Yes, it is in good shape. I'm just going to bang the thing back on. What do you think? We're not going to do more work than we really need to, are we? Right, so we'll whack the balancer on and tighten up that alternator nut, and life should be pretty good. We don't want to reef on these things because the steel is quite thin. Whoa, oh, that's enough. I'm not doing any more than that. That felt a bit dicey actually. So, let's have a look at you. So we always make sure we replace the seal there, which we didn't. But we've lubricated that lovely journal up. This seal is very malleable. So we just very gently in and get the bolt and put it in. Now we've got to also check that alternator pulley. We'll wait till we tighten that up. I reckon that's out. I think the spacer goes at the front and the alternator is a bit further forward because it looks to be out half a pulley. Right, power steering bracket, because this car's not had power steering before. I don't know what bolts that it used. I just want to make sure there's ample room, depth, for these ones to go in, and we can do those up. There's the Toyota Starlet bolts, but they're 8 by 1.25, so it's not a big deal. And the same with that one there. Just make sure that nothing's going to bottom out, and that's fine. There's about 8mm of clearance there, so we can button all these ones up. That's all good, and put the pump on. And so that will give us everything we need to. I haven't checked the clearance between the pump and the oil filter. I'm tipping it's going to be alright. How would you be if it didn't fit and you had to start getting remote oil filters and all this sort of business? That would really stink. Right, yeah. And we'll do the one up at the front. Oh boy. This is the fun bit doing this. I've got to wet sand the car. And yeah, I'm not particularly looking forward to that. Looking at that, the reason I did such a shallow gusset on that bracket extension was so I could go right in for the belt tension. So that's fine. That can stay like that. I'm absolutely fine with that. Let's look at the water pump. These are all blind holes. Oh, that's a bleed. Hang on. This one goes right through. That one's quite a deep one. And here. So I might just use general GM sealer. Some of them actually had... I might use sealer anyway on these because the bolts that came out were reasonably dirty. There are casting differences between the two pumps, the replacement pump and the original one. These are quite thin in this area here. So your original bolts, which fitted there, aren't going to fare so well there. That's not enough thread. So in the kit they give us new hardware. That's pretty good. You don't need a lock nut. It's sort of serrated on the bottom. And they give us these ones here as well. So it's going to have different types of bolts in it, which doesn't really matter that much. We just want it to be more functional. It is a different pump though. If you look at the impeller, I'm hopeful that that doesn't make a difference to it. I wonder if it will. It shouldn't, because the inlet's here. And so centrifugal pumps just push out, which is what that does. So hopefully we don't have a problem, because it is a little bit different. Right, so the gasket is pretty messed up. Well, it's sort of bent around a little bit from being in the packaging. So I'm just going to use a Q-tip or a cotton bud and just run around here to keep it neat. The brush makes too much of a mess. Just go around those little holes. We should find it's going to work well. See, it's a bit of a mess, this gasket. I'm tipping it goes like that. I'm just going to start it with a couple of bolts and then I'll come back with some sealer. Trying to do this with one hand is pretty tricky. Hang on, I need to go for one of these bottom ones. You know that third hand that everyone says they need? I could use it right now. Right. Okie dokie. So we'll just put him up and we'll just make sure as we put these in, that one's too long for there, but it doesn't matter for now because I'm just figuring out, oh, that one doesn't fit at all. Just a minute. We will put some, really anti-seize is probably the best thing for this because these are plated, but I might use, I think the long one will fit in there. Should we put a long one in there? Yes, I think we will. I might use GM sealer just because the original coolant had gone down into the thread and sort of mucked it up a bit. So if I just do that, you can see the gasket's pulling into the right spot now. And which one's longer? This one's longer, so I'm tipping that goes there all the way down, which it does. And that one didn't fit, did it? So we can just pop that one there. Right. Actually, that feels a bit short too. Anyway, let's get our GM sealer out and seal them up. Don't need to go to any great lengths. This stuff is sent before. And this will just seal up those holes. Even though it's not going into a jacket, it's blind, I didn't like the cooling getting into them. So I'm just going to go and do this, and then I'll just tighten it up. And then life is good. So I'm just going to use it like that. Somebody found this stuff online, 52 bucks a can. Incredibly expensive stuff. Anyway, you get the picture. Slight oozing, but that's fine. That's nice and free. We're good to go. I've gone around here in a crisscross way, and I'm just going around to make sure I've got them all tight. And that is cool. Excellent. Spiffy. These can just screw in. I like to lock the stud together, the nuts together, and just stick it in with a little bit more than finger tight. You don't need to. It's got a sort of a ledge on it, so to speak. But this way, I don't know. I don't know why I do it this way. It's just, maybe it makes me feel better. Oh, hang on a second. There we go. We can just take that off. I've lost one of these nuts too, which is a big pain in the neck. It's only a 6mm ones, but I wanted it all to sort of look the same. There we go, water pump. All good. Right, alternator's sitting there. As best as we're going to get it. It's lined up, although I did move the spacer to this side. I think it was incorrectly installed before. It wasn't all that well lined up from memory. Power steering, we need new belts, so we'll get these two belts, and that's sort of how that all sits. Now, I had a problem with this. This is the heater bypass type thing. I've just got to tighten that up there. I don't think that's tight yet. It sits up on a bit of an angle. I think from memory it sort of sat more level, but I've had to take a bit of it off. So this is off the rear end, and it's all sort of corroded. That was the bit there on this corner that I was worried about. We were going to TIG it, but wasn't really sure what the rest of the wall thickness was like, because there's a pinhole in there. Probably easier if we look. Can you see that little spot under the light? So that means it's fairly well knackered. I've taken this bit off here from that part there, and so that's why it's sitting a bit crooked. Now I've also got a flaring tool, and I've just put a small flare in the front and back of it there, so the hose has got something to hang on to, and the clamp can go behind it. It should all be sound. Engine mount, powder coated engine mount brackets are on. We've got oil filter, you know about the dipstick, the oil switch. Turbocharged cars, this is unfiltered oil. It's from the pump before it gets into the oil filter, so I ran a separate oil filter on mine. The other one, apparently can get oil filter adapters and stuff. That can come later, I'm not worried. Block drains in, I was a bit worried about that, the thread's a bit dicky. Used a bit of GM sealer there. So just got to check the exhaust manifold when we stick that on, that it's all going to sit properly, particularly with that hose that's kicked out a little bit. I don't think it's a serious issue, because the bracket for it, I can't even see, is there. So initially that sort of sat and sort of twisted up like that, so it's not a big deal. I'm just going to run a T-piece, a 5/8 T-piece in there. I think that's going to be fine. It just means I might need to get a little bit creative with this hose here. Get one with the right angle in it instead of straight up. So we'll just see how we go with that. I've got dust all over it. In the last video we talked about this, the ceramic coated manifold. It's absolutely beautiful, inside and out. Very clean, very good. What I'm just going to do, I'm just going to pop a bit of Solastic. I've done it on the gasket, just around there, just to seal that the gasket. And this is the only thing on a car engine that I use Solastic for. Just exhausts. Never use it on coolant, never use it on oil. Some people do, some people swear by it. I'm not one of those people. So we don't need an awful lot. It's mainly for the other side. I probably shouldn't have even put it here, but it's mainly for the other side against the cylinder head where there might be irregularities. This is all looking very, very good though, so I'm just going to wipe my finger off and let's stick the thing on. So we've got our manifold, oops, and we're just going to chuck the thing on. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to use a bit of anti-seize here. The nuts are a little bit they've been rusty, which is why they're dull. Here we go. Where's the end of it? That's the way she goes. So I just want to hold that there for now. Get the rest of mine. I think there's an engine hook that goes on this one. But that doesn't matter for now. We can just stick the rest on. And we'll just go around and do them from the centre out. There's a bit of oozing going on here. We'll let that dry and we can just roll that off with our fingers. Does that one go there? I think it does. There we go, that's pretty much it. Just go around and check them all. And like we rattled on about last time, the heat riser goes on here. And we can just button that down as well. We could put some anti-seize on there. In fact, I think I might put anti-seize on there. Just a moment. The brush actually fell apart on this stuff. Just a little bit, that's all we need. If we can negotiate this without making a mess everywhere, we should be good. Just because these are plated and it's going into a ceramic coated manifold, I don't think it would hurt to do this. As we said last time, we're not putting on the heat shield. There's a triangulated heat shield that goes between these three. The one that came off was sort of about to fall off. It wasn't in the greatest condition. And I think with the ceramic coating we're going to be safeguarded against heat a little bit. So I'm not putting it back on, because if I did I'd want a new one. And I haven't even tried looking for them. I don't think they'd be available. The fittings are just sitting up here. That's not got the gasket underneath, because that's... I'll just put the old one back on as we lift it into the car. I don't want a chance scratching that up. It's kind of good looking. We've got the throttle cable guides on there, and we know we've got to get the spark things. We've got those. They're a bit dirty, but we'll put them on anyway. We'll change the plugs out, and that actually looks reasonably good. I'm happy with that. Nice and clean in there. Very happy with how it looks. It's all good. The other thing we've got to do is this manifold. I'll take the carburettor off. I want to check the choke operation. You can see those two things there. They're not blocked, but one of the ones in the manifold is. I think it's this one in there, is it? I poked around. It's not terribly good. It's got to take that carburettor off, clean that manifold up. I'm not putting the engine in without the manifold, because they're a bit of a pain to get to these ones under here. Just because you've got that balance shaft housing there. We want to do this on the stand, put the hooks on, get it off the stand, stick it on the floor and put the gearbox back on. Okay, time to have a look at this, something different, carburettor. And it's a bit of a mess. Just for the fact it's very, very dirty and doesn't look like it's had any love for a long time. We need to clean it up. We've got vacuum lines that are rock hard. These ones go to the canister, that's a purge. Just really need to give the thing a good clean up. There's bits of gasket there. That to me looks like an asbestos gasket. So the best way to deal with that is a bit of water and scrape it off into a vessel and dispose of it thoughtfully. These carburetors are a Mikuni and it does work well. A lot of people have nothing good to say about them. The modification, or at least the upgrade from these, is a Weber. I think it's a 3236. Like the 2-litre Cortinas, the Pinto engines had. They've got the sort of square throats at the top. On the air horn, if you know what I mean. Although I do think they still use a water-based coolant heated choke, which is, yeah, I don't like those. Don't know. There's a joint that actually does aftermarket ones and also blow-through turbo ones, which is worth considering for this car. I wanted a draw-through for those lovely rams that sort of go around into the engine, but it may well be cheaper getting a Weber and having it modified to go down that road later on if we want to. Now, the problem with this little car of ours is that it was blowing plumes of black smoke, which is very common for these because of this thermo-wax arrangement here. Let me just move the camera down for a sec. The problem with them is they're quite, they're spread out over a large area, if you know what I mean. So it dominates this whole area here. I originally wasn't worried about it. We've got a cylinder here which has the wax pellet in it. It's cool, it's heated up by coolant and pushes on this. There's a large spring there which it overcomes, therefore causing this thing to arch down, and there's a plastic gear on the top which operates the choke flap. So originally I thought that's alright, I'll just bob a hole right through the centre of it and just have a lever actuating this. But the problem there is we've got a pull-off diaphragm. We've got that right in the centre of where the wax pellet is, or where the chamber for the wax pellet is. And we've got the throttle cable that comes down here through the centre of that around here and operates thus. So modifying it could be quite difficult, which is probably why a lot of people don't do it or can't do it. Just getting rid of this whole load of apparatus, I'm not sure if it divulges porting and all sorts of things behind it. The obvious thing would be to move the whole thing out and just have a lever coming off here. I would sooner a manual choke all day, every day, particularly if they're inclined to be problematic. Now, these things are known for blocking. That one's not blocked. Coolant lines go to here. That one is blocked. Mostly. There's a bit of a blockage there, but it's not, I mean, it is significant, but it's not as blocked as I thought it would be. And of course down here, and that one's not. That one's clear, I think. Yes, it is. So, what we need to do, there's a couple of things we need to do here. First, we need to get rid of the gasket. We need to seal it up. Seal up the ports, seal up the top, the air horn, and hit it with degreaser because it's just revolting the way it is. And you just touch it and you get covered. Oh, hang on, I need more tea. The actual operation of the thing didn't faze me at all. I thought it was pretty good. Oh crap, we've got coolant in there. This is all oil soaked underneath. I'm not tipping. This is going to be particularly great in terms of condition where the union for the coolant line is. Down in there. It's just a bit of a mess. Could be worrying over nothing. These are from Bunnings. You get 2 lots of these. That's 100 blades for $10. It's the cheapest way of buying them. So I'm just going to go around here and remove as much of that gasket. It might be nothing to worry about, but it also could be pretty nasty. And I work in an environment here where there's a lot of dust, and the dust is not good, and the more protection I can give myself, the better. I got rid of most of the gasket. We scraped off what we could and just hit it with a bit of 220. We used it wet, and we've got it clean-ish. Jeez Louise, look at this thing. Hang on a minute, let me get it on. Undo this Jubilee clip. I got back for saying Jubilee clip, that Ed China says that. And I've heard that term a million times before I ever watched Wheelie Dealers, and I don't watch Wheelie Dealers. I find it a bit, no, it's not really for me, put it that way. Although the compere of the show can be a bit over the top with the way he acts, and carries on sometimes. I think most shows do that though. Oh, look at this. This union's in good nick. That's stuffed. Oh, brother. Alright, so that union's pretty healthy. That's a good thing, because I expected it to be stuffed. There's one up here which looks... Oh, I've got more water. One up here that looks quite unhealthy. That, we might be able to unscrew that. I could probably make that on a lathe. That's actually really easy to make. Not so much with this. We might have to get something to screw into it if that's not serviceable, but it might be. I'm not sure. We've got this vacuum line here which plugs into that one there. That goes to the canister purge and the auto advance, or the back advance on the distributor. I'm just going to take that one and stick it in there. Hang on, I'm going to take that off and just whack that there so I don't fill everything up. I don't know where this goes. That could go to the air filter. The flap for the heat riser. Don't know. No idea. I haven't even looked into it. Oh yes, eat that fabric. I'm going to stick it down the vents, the bowl vents. If I can get it down the bloody bowl vents. Here we go, here we go, here we go. And just in the venturi, and then we'll just tape it up. Right, so for this exercise we're using a $3 can of Reject Shop Degreaser. Good stuff, it's caustic. It'll probably kill the grass, but this is cooch, so it'll probably grow back in, I don't know, 32 minutes. Yeah, just cover him up. It comes out really quickly. I don't know if you're supposed to do this, but I'm certainly doing it. And you can kind of brush it, and God, that is filthy. this might not work as well as I hoped. Not bad for $3. There's a couple of stubborn bits on here, so we're not going to get it in one hit. Oh, yuck, I've got a mouthful. Oh, that's good. So here it is, cleaned up. Rudimentary cleanup. Made a really big mistake. Concentrating on, you know, blocking all this off, blocking the vacuum ports off and the air horn this, and forgot about the fuel lines, which is the most obvious thing. I taped it up too little too late for the second time around. So I think now I'm going to pop the carburettor off, and I just want to clean the manifold off properly and put it back on the engine, because I want to get the engine on the ground. And we'll just undo it in a crisscross and remove it and see what it's like. I might take this off too. See how much water got in with my waterproofing duct tape, which probably isn't waterproof at all. Needless to say though, the waterproofing on the fuel lines was less effective, but that's dry as a bone in there, so that's good. That's one thing. I'm furious though, because I didn't want to pull the carburettor apart. It worked. I mean, I guess I should, to just make sure the bowl's clean and everything, but the car did run quite well, so I don't see too much point in getting into something if it works. Come on, up you get. Oh, there is water in there, just a little bit. There's bound to be more water in this thing though. Let's pop that off to the side. And we've got a gasket which comes in a VRS set. So I'm just going to clean this up. I'm not going to show any of that because I've done more cleaning on this video than any other one I've done. So I'm alright with that. I'm alright with this. It's this other thing I'm not alright with. This bloke. I'm so disappointed with myself for making such a mistake. But you know what? People do that. I make mistakes. I make lots of them. Just ask the people at work. I am tipping there's going to be liquidy stuff like water in here. Do Mitsubishi use JIS fasteners? I know the Honda motorcycles do. I'm not sure about the cars. Oopsie. Come back. I don't want to buy a kit for this. So I'm going to try and save gaskets too. And I haven't taken that arm off. This could go really belly up. I wish I didn't do this. This is so stupid. Is that water? Okay, it's water. Damn. So what's involved with taking all this apart? Let's have a look. That will stay there. That wire will come up and undo the air horn. That just clicked out. It's missing its little thing, but I might have something that'll fit that. That's a Thermowax mofo, which we don't like. I think we're going to be doing surgery. I'm going to pop this off. Might give us a bit of view. But some of these things don't have anything really holding them on. They're kind of clipped on like that. Maybe that's how they're supposed to be. I don't know. So, now we've got this. We're going to take that off to get to those. That will come off with the lid though. Is there anything on the wax pellet? Oh, there's a spring down there. Right in there. This is going to be a pain. This is going to be a pain. My goodness. And it would have taken 2 seconds not to do this. Throttle spring. That's pretty easy to understand. We can take that off now because we just can. And that makes life. It's on the top hole. Remind me if I forget, please. Thank you. We've got an actuator rod there. That looks relatively easy to get out by removing this little clip. There. Gosh, that's going to be easy to lose, isn't it? And that rod will drop off and relinquish, which is what we want. Gosh, what else is there? It's a complicated little bastard, isn't it? I think what we'll do, I'm just going to start taking stuff off. I just don't want to have to get a kit for this. So that thing swings around. That means this one here might let it come off. And then it'll share secrets with Peter. Oh yeah, that's easy. Sweet, we're good. That went there, that went there. So we plonk him over there and we forget all about that. There's a gasket there too, which we don't want to lose, but it gives us a slightly better view of what's going on down here. Now I'm looking down here, down the side of the body for the Thermoworks unit, and it's clear. So I'm tipping that all comes off with the lid. Oh gosh, why didn't I just block those bloody fuel line things off? Seriously, that was so dumb. But as I said, I keep doing dumb things because that's what I do. And I shouldn't. Oh well. I've never worked on one of these. All I did with one of these was take one off the other car when I put the blower on it. I never stopped to consider what was in it or how to work on it. Okay. I forgot about there's a screw down there. I even took that off thinking it went down to the throttle plate. But no, I was wrong. Oh, God, it's going to fall apart now. So, let's pop the lid off. Oh, yes. Actually, that all looks pretty good. I'm reasonably glad I took it off. It is silty in there, though. Jeez, I don't want to damage that. Can we see? It is silty in there. I don't know if you can see. I think sometimes the torch makes it worse to see. Okay, I think we'll clean that out, blow it out, that sort of thing. And really just put it together. It's dirty, but it's not absolutely as knackered as I thought it would be. But the main thing is, look, no water got in there. That's a friggin' miracle. I think I might just take the float out. Carby videos, eh? I don't normally do carby videos because they bore me. I never watch them. I used to, but they're just flogged to death. Everyone does carburettor videos and they're just boring. I'll just pop that there. And I'll take the needle out. And it wasn't overfueling. Well, it was, but I think we'll just blow air through there just to make sure nothing got in. I'll blow it back that way, actually. So that's cool. Actually, that's nowhere near as bad as I thought. While this is off, though, it might give us a chance to have a look at this Thermoworks gig. What do you think? That might be a good idea. That might be a very good idea. It's got a massive spring. Look at the size of that spring, and it fights it to get the choke open. So, there it is there. There's the adjustment for it. So, I would be inclined to adjust that right in. So, it only has to move a little bit, but it depends on how much. I might get some boiling water. These are $140 to get, and I just don't want to spend that on this carburettor. So, yeah, we've got some answers. That's actually good. It's in hindsight, it's worked out alright. I was bleeding about pulling it apart. Now I'm not too worried at all. Boiling the garage kettle. Okay, we're ready. And the purpose behind boiling the garage kettle and saying yes, we're ready is I want to see if this wax pellet is actually doing anything. So I'm going to tip this up. I'm going to try not to burn myself. And we should see some action. Just don't want to kneel in scalding hot water. Yes, it is moving, it's doing something. So I think what we'll do, that's actually a bit of a relief. It's probably not as good as it was when it was new. But the important thing is it is actually moving. Oh, there goes the choke flap. But this is boiling. This is 100 degrees. And you can see the choke flap now is open. But with the car running, it wasn't doing that. So I think what we'll do is we'll just adjust the thing right in. And that way it'll open a little bit more prematurely than what it is now. Oh, the police! No ultrasonics here, baby. We are using panel wipe. The universal dating fluid. You know what? I should get an ultrasonics cleaner, but I've just got no room for anything. I mean, I hang on to all these silly projects. I'm going to go and blow that out. Stick. Okie dokie. We have cleaned the bowl out. And the air horn. And now we're just going to bang it back together. And it goes back in the reversal of the way it came apart, except we need to put the float in, which I just forgot about. So I'm not going to go through all this. If you like seeing this sort of thing, there's plenty of people that do it. You know, carburettors and fiddling and farting around with this sort of stuff. I'm not particularly interested. Nearly got it all back together. There's just this little gauze, filter gauze here for the diaphragm, which is kind of damaged. It's just a vent, and it's just, I just want to take it off and make sure it's all alright. It has got some damage on it. It's pretty easy stuff. I don't see anything difficult about these. Mikuni actually have a very good reputation with motorcycle carburetors, but not so much car by the look of it. If you read everything, or believe everything you read. Right, so that concludes our little carburetor adventure. Whoops, no it doesn't. I'm going to put that in. And I screwed the... Oh, I've got a sandwich. Hang on. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yep. Hang on. I'm just going to go and eat. Oh, that was a damn good sandwich. I really enjoyed it. It was a toasty. Susie knocked it up nice and quickly. Hang on, just let me move that under there. Alright. Here's our carburetor, all finished. And it's not the cleanest. I'll clean up a bit under here a bit more, particularly around that jacket and so forth. But it's all clean inside. It's going to work well, unless of course I hit the compressed air in the wrong spot and sent the ball bearing off at 1,000,000 miles an hour, but I don't think I did. Interestingly, we've got the choke half open. That's because I adjusted this right in, so I might just pull that out a bit. It's quite good. It was out a little way, but we can just back that out a little bit. Can we see? Hang on. Can we see this? I'm just going to pull it out to about there. Just so it starts on fast idle. It's adjusted in considerably more than what it was, but it's very, very easy to adjust. And I think it's going to be fine. I think it'll be good. So I'm not prepared to do any more on that. We're going to leave well alone and put it off to one side as we clean the manifold and stick it on the engine. But I'm not going to show you the cleaning bit because I've done enough of that. So just hang there for a minute and I'll be back. Right, I've just got the manifold sitting there with one nut. The reason for that is because once I've stuck the gasket on, I've got a Permatex around the water jackets, that sort of thing. I can't take it off again without destroying it. This is the old fuel pump that was causing all the leaks and all that sort of stuff. And I just wanted to make sure that I can stick that on, which I knew I could, but I just wanted to make sure, hang on Rose, I'll be out, that I could put that on without it interfering with the manifold, if you know what I mean. Which was, look, fairly straightforward, but it's just a precaution. Same thing we were talking about before. I'm just using a bit of Permatex around the, it's particularly important actually around things like the water jackets, just around there. There's another one at the front here. I'm also going to stick it around the ports. I'm just going to stick a couple of nuts here for now without the washers, just to hold it there while I organise my tools and all that sort of stuff. And then we'll come back and we'll tighten these up. I've got my old rocket cover on there just to lift the engine up. It's so much easier doing this on a stand, particularly this nut under here, because you can see in the car it's a real pain. But isn't that incredible how a grotty rocket cover can really make the thing look awful? You know, it's it just looks really average with that on it. I forgot about this one. It's blind, so we don't need to put sealer on it. We forgot about that bolt. Right, well, is that straight? That's probably better there. Can't find my chains. I'm still using this thing here, which is less than satisfactory. But I need to get this guy on the ground. Let's go that way. Oh, that's better. Slippery sucker, isn't it? God, how bad would it be if it friggin' dropped it? Let it suck ass. Okay, that's not coming apart, that's good for now. Can I work it forward a bit? Yeah, I reckon. Oh, there we go. Turn around, maybe. And there we go. Let's get a bit of height out of it first. Oh, you want to see, don't you? Hang on a second. You guys want to see what I'm doing. Oh, that's better. Maybe just take these out first. I never set this up very well. I'll take the stand off. Then we'll have a closing comment and then I'll go. And I'm on holiday, so I'll probably have another video out in about 6 hours. Not that fast, but you know what I mean. I like being on holiday. It makes me feel really good about not being at work. Okay. Stick that back in the shed. I've got to get a place with more room. This really blows. Well, I guess I'm going to stick this bit on. This is the sandwich plate. And it's got a couple of bolts in here. And it will help make it look even more spiffier than it did before. I'll just make sure those bolts are central. We should be good. Just a moment. Gosh, they're noisy. My daughter's got a, is having a birthday party for one of her friends. That's going to fit in there, obviously, because it's around the outside of the dowel. I just want to make sure these are, because that would really suck if they didn't. When we go to put the clutch on. When we go to put the gearbox on, sorry. God, they're yelling. I can't even myself think. I want to do the intro now. And I can't do the intro with all these people yelling. But you know what? I'm pretty lucky with the amount of work I get done in here anyhow. And if a couple of kids are yelling, who cares? There we go. Well, here she is, all finished. Wow, it's a bit of a polished turd, really. Something's missing. We need to give it a bit of extra illumination, just like they do in Blackpool. Just a moment. Oh, yes. Doesn't that look nice? Very, very nice. And it's sitting on its very own piece of quality wool blend carpet, which I'm sure this engine appreciates. Let's have a closer look. The original Mitsubishi engine had that sandwich plate plated, but it was done in silver. I just did it in gold because everything's on this thing is gold. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Power steering paint job is rather crap because it's done with a rattle can, and I didn't clean it up especially well, but I didn't want to get into it too much because I didn't want to sort of rot the hoses or the seals or anything like that. So that's the reason it's like that. It looks reasonably good and I'm reasonably happy with it. It would be a bummer if it started knocking and blowing smoke though. That would really suck. What else we got? Oh, there's a light behind there. There it is. The alternator looks alright. And as I said, you know, the alternator's worn. The engine's old, but it's all good. The other thing I've done is that piece of pipe there on the back is now ready for the, what do you call it? The T-piece. We're just going to put a T-piece there. So that's all good. I'm happy with that. It's got the engine mounts there. I've used anti-seize on these manifold studs and nuts. So from here, I think the best thing to do is to I'll have a look at this clutch thing. Apparently this clutch kit that's $85. It's only $40 dearer than a thrust bearing. I didn't like the thrust bearing on this one. I want to have another look at that front bearing in the gearbox. I think it might be okay. I might be able to fudge that and get away with it. And if that's the case, we will just put the gearbox back in and stick it all back in the car. I'm very keen to do that. I just want to get it sort of in the car and then I can sort of just put it back together as I sort of find time. But yeah, I'm quite happy. I'm sure you think it looks alright. I'm fairly happy with it. The only thing I need to do, I think I've got a better cap for it. That's one of those. It's got that varnishy stuff on it. And while I mention it, you can see here on that lead there, on that vacuum line I should say, that's that varnishy crap too. So all the lines are going to get changed out. And I'm really thinking about that Weber carburettor conversion they talk about, and the fact that it does work so well with the blow-through turbo. So that would mean it would just have a single pipe coming over the top and going into there. But not the greatest look, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. So look, on that note, thanks very much for watching. This is a very long chapter, but there was stuff in there. I thought, you know what, I'll just include it all. And that way you can decide whether to fast forward through it or knock it off early. But in any case, Take good care of yourselves. Enjoy Classic, and I'll see you around. Bye.